Alice Alvius here, and she is CMB Vice President of Education and Training at the outstanding company, Union Home Mortgage. And I am excited to get this week's legislative update. Alice, what do you have for us?
Today, Dave, I wanted to elaborate a little bit on what was in the MBA news link that Adam reported on earlier, and that is this joint trades response to the CFPB policy statement on abusive acts or practices, because it's absolutely amazing in UDAP, so the Uniform Unfair, Deceptive, or Abusive Acts or Practices, so UDAP regulation. It's really crazy in that how many just adjectives and adverbs are just thrown around, right? You can't be abusive, you can't be unfair and deceptive, and there really has to be solid explanations for what each one of those mean. And this joint comment letter, I thought, did an excellent job of pointing out the areas that the CFPB has not provided enough detail for lenders to know what does this mean and what do I have to make sure I'm doing. For those of you who don't have to deal with this, I always tell folks, this goes all the way down to how the loan officer communicates with the borrower. Everything you do from that point, the rest of the loan process can fall under, if you make a lot of mistakes, you don't have clear disclosures on what your services and products you're providing, it could be turned into a case under UDAP. And what we look at today typically is that you go from unfair and deceptive, and then abusive is another level. It would escalate to being abusive, which would mean fines and penalties, and any type of corrective actions would be much, much tougher. In this, I think they do a great job of really pushing CFPB that you have to differentiate between the two in a meaningful way that lenders can apply it in the market. If you think, too, about what is considered material, that should be something the borrower has to prove, or the agency would have to see enough information that there was actual proof of a material problem that occurred or a material impact to a consumer, like you would if you were going to sue someone, that you actually had to prove you had a financial loss or there was an actual harm. I think that things like that are critical in making sure that as lenders we know how to make sure we apply this. And they also make a great case for how to spell out examples. There are cases that CFPB has already pushed out there that we could use for examples. And this statement that they put out that went into effect, by the way, back at the beginning of April, doesn't highlight or even line up with those statements. So I do think for those of you in the compliance world, this is something to watch closely so that we as lenders can make sure we're doing the right things. We all want to do the right things. We have a vision of what this act was designed for, right? Let's not have another meltdown of 2008, right? Let's not do that again. We're all in agreement, but now you have to try and describe what that would really look like and when it would be considered abusive. We're watching this one closely, and we'll keep you posted. So that's one thing. And then just as a side note, there is no movement yet on the Trigger Leads House bill that's out there. So for those of you who want to watch this one closely, it's H.R. 4198 that was introduced back in June. And we will keep watching that for you. No movement yet. It's summer. We don't expect a lot of movement yet, so we'll watch it over the next couple of months and see what happens. But that's my report for today, Dave. Back
very
to
good.
You.
Very good. Thank you, Alice, very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, the UDAP penalties can get fairly substantial when it gets over into the egregious area, but they have not provided good leadership or good amount of information. Remember those old words, Alice, that Richard Cordray says, we're going to sort through that through enforcement action or litigation. We'll bring clarity by watching that kind of activity. I think those days, we're not at that level. They've done better, but they still have a long ways to go as far as providing direction and clarity.
Yes, I agree. And they didn't really go through this in the traditional process, so that's another thing the comment letter urges, is to go back to getting public comment. So they could definitely make revisions, and I think this letter is a great start. Also for lenders, if you're someone who's new to this level of compliance, this letter really gives you some good background on, how are these things interpreted, and what should I be watching out for?
Yeah. It can sometimes create a little concern because it creates more questions than answers, but stay tuned. So very good. Thank you, Alice. Appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.